Hey everyone, and welcome to the show. So, like I mentioned in the intro, today we're talking about striking when the iron is hot, and it's a bagel success story. This is just such a wild thing that I've been able to witness with a friend of mine named Jesse and then his partner Adam. And I won't get too into the story. I'm going to let them speak. But before we go any further, Adam and Jesse, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Thanks, man.
All right. So this is just like I get a huge smile when I see something like this. And you don't get to see stuff like this happen live. You get to hear about it like later on, or you hear about it from a friend of a friend. I've been watching this go on social media since what I believe is the start. So how about you tell us where Sherms is today, like where you're at, like literally right now, and then how it started, the story of how we got here.
Yeah, sure. I guess I'll take that. Right now, we are a bagel company in Toronto, making small batch, handmade, hand rolled bagels. We're selling about 20 to 25 dozen a day at the moment. We're currently working out of a commercial kitchen in the north end of Toronto. It's something that we just started. It's been going for about 3 months now, I guess I would say.
Yeah, we started in December.
December, yeah. And started from, our respected apartments, baking at home and messing around. And now we now we have a full-fledged bagel company on our hands within about 3 months.
Yeah, it kind of snowballed really fast.
Well, that's the craziest part. And this is what I love about it. Like, and I'll get to the whole like underground, like indie scene, like music scene part of it. But like, correct me if I'm wrong, Jesse, this was just your grandfather's recipe. Is that right?
No, it actually was not my grandfather's recipe at all. My grandfather was a bagel lover in Philadelphia, but didn't have any background in anything culinary wise or baking. He just loved bagels, but the recipe is something we sort of developed ourselves. We found a recipe that's more or less a Montreal style bagel recipe, so a sweeter kind of bagel than your average. And we took a recipe we found and we tweaked it to where we're at today, which we think is kind of a cross between a Montreal style bagel and what we call a Toronto style bagel. But no, the background of it was purely like as far as the recipe and all that was all R&D done by myself and Adam.
Yeah, it really came from making pizza dough.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was a little bit of a fluke. We started making pizza dough from scratch, and then, one day Jesse ended up with extra dough and decided to throw it in the water, and that sort of sparked the idea. And then, we really went deep with research, and, the first batch we both did, in our own kitchens worked out so well that we knew we were kind of onto it. But, first and foremost, we were just making bagels that we liked ourselves, so it's cool because, we certainly didn't intend for it to go this far, this fast, but, everyone seems to be really supportive and, really liking what we're doing. So it's cool.
It's totally wild because like you're getting written up a lot. You're getting a lot of press in Toronto. Is that correct?
Yeah, a ton. We've been featured in about 3 or 4 of the biggest like online Toronto blogs, as well as we were on the CBC. CBC did a feature for TV and web. So we've been getting, and yeah, they just sort of keep coming. There's all kinds of press stuff that's just come out of the woodwork, and we haven't solicited any of it ourselves. It's just sort of people have heard about us and emailed or called, and it's been awesome that way.
Yeah, it's been a lot of word of mouth, and just, obviously with the internet and Instagram and, being able to, just create some kind of momentum there has been a really amazing thing to watch, even for ourselves in a company that, we kind of just started because we were having fun.
Yeah.
So
totally it came from just us, yeah, having fun making bagels because we couldn't get the bagels we wanted in Toronto. It was like, so it's like, well, we'll just try to make them.
Totally. I like this is kind of like it's like that classic, hey, I didn't have the alternatives that I wanted, so I just made them and then it unintentionally turned into a business.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you two know each other?
Well, we go back quite a while, but I met Jesse. I was doing A&R at Sony BMG, probably like 15 years ago, and we signed Jesse's band at the time, No Warning. So I was doing A&R for No Warning. We were doing a lot of, stuff in our studio recording. And, Jesse and I just became really close sort of through that. Kind of from there, he moved in, we were roommates. So, before we were business partners, we definitely had a good history of living with each other and, being really, really great friends. So, I think that's one of the tricky things in business, working with friends or living with friends are very different things. And, we could live with each other. So we figured we could probably be in business with each other.
Yeah.
So far it's worked out.
So far, so good. We've done enough work on so many different musical projects. He's a writer. Adam's a writer and an engineer and a producer and all this stuff. And we've worked on all kinds of musical projects, not just, heavy stuff. And it's, we've always got along and worked really well together. And, Adam stood for me at my wedding and, it's like, we're basically brothers.
So I love, Adam, that you did A&R on the, at the time, misunderstood, but I think historically redeemed classic Suffer Survive by No Warning. I love that record. When that record came out, straight off the bat, I got to credit Greg Bacon, the great Greg Bacon, for bringing it on my radar. I love No Warning, like right off the hop for sure. I think one of Canada's truest, greatest hardcore bands. That record, though, is sick. And I remember at the time when it came out, people kind of like, it didn't hit. But I think historically people are like, no, that's a great record, because it is.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. It's been funny watching, going to Europe later on. And I mean, No Warning never toured Europe for one when we were a band back in the day. But when I started going to Europe with Comeback Kid, when I was playing drums with them, the amount of people that would come up to me and be like, Suffer Survive, Suffer. I've seen people with Suffer Survive tattooed on their throat, like, their hands, like people like, and it's funny. And I mean, I've always, I played on that record. It was my first record I played on with the band. And I have great memories of recording it and stuff. It was an interesting time in our lives, but I have pride in that record. I think it's a great record for what it is. And you see, meeting kids that are a lot younger, that was like their first No Warning record, or that's, what I mean? It's kind of interesting and kind of cool and a little bit redeeming, I think, at the end, because it wasn't well received at the on its release, really, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, and like we could do like 5 podcasts just on that record. I got a lot to say on it. Like, I think it's a very cool topic, but let's get back to Sherms. Okay. So you guys had a good history as friends. And when you started doing this, when you were making the dough, the pizza dough, was it with the intent to sell anything, or was it just for fun? Like, let's make pizza dough.
Yeah, no intent at all for selling it. I mean, really more just, having fun baking. Obviously the circumstances surrounding this, I think also are pretty unique in that, this pandemic or COVID probably is the other significant reason that this has happened. I think otherwise, Jesse would have been on tour. I would have been doing whatever in the studio. And, I think just that's the other part that's very interesting about, the forces aligning in this happening is, I think even for the interest, perhaps, people are definitely, looking for new things, and, everyone's focus is a lot more focused.
Well, man, like you're bringing up a point that I think is like totally at the center of all this. So you're both creatives, right? And you both have some background in business. Adam, I think you have quite a bit of background in the music business and being on that side. And Jesse,
yes.
I know like you've essentially, music has been your business while maybe having side jobs. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure. I've been freelance drumming for the last bunch of years. I don't know, last 10 years at least. So if not, I mean more as well.
Yeah. So like you both have like definite backgrounds in business, but you're essentially creatives who learned business via being creative. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So, but like, during the pandemic, like, yeah, you can be creative. It's not like you can be out in the studio very easily, or you can't be out on tour. So that normal process that both of you have, and also part of how you make your living, is being stymied right now. So yeah, a lot of people are using the pandemic to like, hey, I'm going to write that book I've always wanted to write, or I'm going to get in great shape, or I'm going to sit on the couch and gain 20 pounds, like whatever it is that people are doing.
Sure.
The two of you seem to have taken your creative energy and were like, hey, let's just learn to do something for fun. And from that, an opportunity came.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's in a beautiful way, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and very, very naturally too. It was nothing about this was at all forced. There was, again, it started totally out of a creative, thing. We wanted and a need for or a want for bagels for ourselves, but it quickly snowballed because we, the second or the day after we made that first batch, I made a post on Instagram asking anybody interested in buying bagels if I made them, and so the second batch of bagels I actually made, I sold, which is kind of crazy.
That is insane, man.
Yeah,
okay.
The second day to my buddy Chuck Coles. Chuck Coles, a guy, or was it? Yeah, it was Chuck. I'm pretty sure it was Chuck Coles, who's a great musician here in Toronto.
You got to get that one right, man. Is it Chuck? Is Chuck the person that set it off?
I'm trying to think if he was number one. It was either him or Harley. Shit. I think it was Chuck.
We'll call it Chuck.
We're gonna call it Chuck Coles. Yeah.
All right, respect to you, Chuck. You set a ship in motion. Okay, so but that, like, what's the difference there? Like, okay, hey, we got some extra. Let's make some pizza dough. We're having fun with it. And again, like for anyone who's listening, it's like Jesse and I don't go like super way back. We actually met on tour, and we'd had mutual friends for years. We became fast friends. Follow each other on Instagram. Like nothing, just kind of what I call kind of classic music buddies, right?
Yeah.
But I've always, like, I ask Jesse a lot of questions about what goes on his Instagram because
you do.
Because I don't I'm straight edge. I don't smoke weed. I don't do any of that. And Jesse's like, his knowledge of that world is so like beyond anything that I know. I'm always like, what the hell is that? What is that? Weed butter? Like, what is that? I don't know.
So I was just telling Adam about that you're always asking me like, what is a dab? How do you smoke that? What is that? Yeah, for sure.
Dude, sometimes I feel like when I ask you things, like I feel like I'm from like the 1920s, like, oh, what are you kids up to these days? But like, I love watching your stuff and ask you weird non weed user questions. But you're doing this thing. I'm watching it unfold. I'm like, damn, that's sick. Like, I love that, and I love when people just go with it and take the leap. But there's a big difference between, hey, does someone want to just buy some extra bagels that I'm making versus let's start a business. So how did you go from, yeah, this is just kind of fun thing we could do, a little extra income, to, oh no, we could actually do this?
Yeah. That's a good question. How did we sort of come to that decision? I mean,
well,
I think a lot of the,
yeah, I mean, I think, we're still figuring it out every day, but I think, the support that we've had coupled with, the network of people we already know, not just in the entertainment industry, but in the food industry, has sort of given us the, I think, confidence to keep going. And, every week we're trying to improve or grow. And, it's been a very positive experience so far. So I feel like, it quickly became a reality that this could be a viable business versus it just being something fun we're doing and, catching a couple bucks on the side from friends.
Yeah, for sure.
And then again, like, not to whatever with COVID, but, this sort of opportunity to like look at doing something differently or, start a new business in a time that's really challenging, has been almost sort of more, more inspiration to keep going, and, a lot of the people who are buying bagels from us are really genuinely enjoying it, and that's a cool thing too, to just have something that makes people happy in a time that's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, I think that really was a big part. Just that every time that we would give out a bag of bagels to someone or sell a bag of bagels, and they would come back with so happy and so much love and so much like it's really nice. It's a really nice feeling. It's similar to feelings you get sometimes performing or playing to a crowd or having somebody love music you worked on, but it's even more direct. It's food is like, there's no question. If you like it and you love it, it's like you could be from anywhere, any kind of background, anything, and it's an instant connection thing. And I think, for me, that part of it really was encouraging and kept us wanting to work hard and actually take this thing to the next level.
Yeah, and you both just hit on something that I think it's important for us to talk about, because people love the bagels. Like, that's clear. Like, people are into the bagels. But there seems to be this whole other side where people have like really connected with what you're doing. And, Adam, you'd said something about kind of inspiring. And then Jesse, you'd also said like people just seem so stoked on it. like there seems to be like an element of people watching you do this has been like they're doing more than buying something because they like the bagels. They're doing it
Yeah.
because they're like they feel some kind of like connected. They feel connected to what you're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, I've so I actually have met pretty much every single person we've sold bagels to just because of the arrangement of how we were selling them. We would be baking them at a commercial kitchen, and before that at my house and at a condo. And but because of that, because of the way we worked the pickups, I had anywhere from 11 to 20 people coming to my door every night for the last how long, a couple months now.
Months.
Well,
yeah.
So I've literally met all these people face to face and handed them their bagels. And I've got a lot of that from these people that are like, we need a story like this right now. This is so encouraging, like stuff like that. And, like a lot of people have been down and out. And then the other thing is, a lot of people are like, this is great. This is a great excuse for me to get out of my house. And they love the human contact, at a distance, obviously. Yeah. But, there's definitely something to that part of it as well. The story and the, just something good coming out of something not so good.
Yeah. Like for me, I mean, beyond, again, Jesse and I, you and I know each other a bit, but like, I just like seeing people do something cool and use a really crappy time to do something that's like, I don't know, inspiring. It makes me feel good to see how well you're doing. And that's why I wanted to have you on here. Because A, it's just a cool story. B, it's like, this is like a feel good story. Like you're doing something cool. And on one side, yeah, you're making bagels, and we could minimize that. But I actually think like as you're doing this, you're giving people like a lot of hope, a lot of inspiration, like a happy part of their day, and someone to root for. And that's just cool.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's making me happy. So, really, like it's been on a personal and on a, like, selfish level or whatever. It's like, that's another reason we keep going with it. It's a daily, we're both fulfilled by it, I think, right now. And, it's encouraging to see something that we're doing, watch it grow and, and see people react. It's definitely keeping us going in a positive way.
All right. So any hesitation points? So like as the business is scaling up and you're going from blog post to blog post, you're going from your house to a commercial kitchen. Has there ever been any point where you're like, oof, I don't know if I want to do this, or I'm worried about this next step?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's obviously a lot of people coming out of the woodwork really quickly because of, the word getting around so fast and kind of, the popularity being so kind of out of nowhere. So, we're obviously treading carefully just as far as what the next step might be. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that this could go. And I think, we're just sort of really taking it one day at a time so that we make the right decision. Because, we're not in any rush to do anything too unrealistic. I think that's the thing, is we're trying to keep it realistic to what we want it to be. Also, we are still, musicians and do these things that are outside of the kitchen. So, trying to coexist with our previous worlds as well is still, I think, an important thing for us. Well, knowing that we have now a fully, thriving business on our hands.
The nice part of this is that it's all up to us. Like we can call all the shots. So there was I never felt any pressure one way or the other. Obviously we had to make a decision that we were going to take it more seriously than just selling a couple dozen bagels a day. That's for sure. But we don't feel, at least I don't feel any pressure in one way or the other to like, do anything outside of what we feel comfortable with, which is great, which is allowing us to make the right decisions moving forward. Like there's nobody with a gun to our head. We're working for ourselves. This is our thing. We can decide if if we want to take a week off, we can take a week off. You know what I mean? It's all up to us, which is probably at least for me, it's the first time in my life that I've been in a situation like that. Usually, if I get hired on something playing drums or whatever, you're working for somebody else. If I had a part-time job, bartending, doing whatever, you're working for someone else. In this case, we're completely calling the shots. So it's low stress in that way. It just, gives us time to figure things out and do it the right way, I think.
Okay. Well, and like kind of a chronic story you hear with businesses that like suddenly start booming, or they put it in the creative space, like bands that like that grow too quick, get hyped too much, get too much attention, is people get addicted to that, and they're afraid to, when Jesse, you said like, hey, we could just take a week off if we want. And I love, like, that's a healthy attitude, but it's real easy to slip into some negative patterns where you're like, no, we need the next thing. We need the next success. Like, so how are you keeping your head straight as you're going through this?
Yeah, I think for one thing, we're just really focused on the product itself. And Adam's been, up all night figuring out dough formulas, things like that. We've been tweaking things so much and really focusing on, we only do 2 different bagels. You do a sesame and a poppy bagel. And staying focused, I think, on getting those 2 things, really, really great is helping us not get too big for our boots, and not, not try to take on everything. Like, okay, we got to sell cream cheese now, and we got to do 5, 6 different bagels and stuff like that. I think the staying small that way with our menu and stuff like that is helping us, because we're still, we're still tweaking stuff as we go. We're not settled ever really, which is I think why the product's turning out so good. But if we were, I think that's keeping us on track, that kind of mentality.
Adam, you got anything to add to that?
Well, I mean, I think at the end of the day, we're just gonna, do what feels right for us, and this business started that way, and I think that's kind of the way that we want to see things grow. So, if we have, a couple stutters along the way, I mean, I think that's healthy growing with a business. But, ultimately, the way that this has all come together has been so organic and, very, just very streamlined in a funny way. So we just want to kind of keep it with that.
Yeah, it seems like it's almost like it's been preordained in a wild way, because it seems so seamless. But to that, if we go back to December 2020, is there anything you do differently?
December 2020.
Well, when we started, I think, I mean, in a funny way, I don't know that I would change anything, only because, that one thing would set off a collision course of different, things happening, where it's like the butterfly effect, where like, we wouldn't be sitting here today if, so it's a weird one, because I think even to my previous point, like, we're taking it all in stride, but it's like, it's all happened so organically. The opportunities that have come to us, the people we've met, just honestly enjoying going to the kitchen every day and hanging out with, cool. Like, it's a funny thing that way. So
I don't know that I would change anything.
Yeah.
Because just like you said, it's like, it's all happened naturally, and things happen, day to day, the way things would go down, and the connections and the people we've met, and the just everything about it, and all the press stuff, everything like that. It all came just naturally. Every day there was something else, it seemed, Mm-hmm. Every week there's massive improvements in all kinds of ways, but every day, for especially that first month and stuff, like, it was like, oh wow.
Yeah. I mean, I've worked in the music industry a long time. It's hard to think that I've ever worked on a project that moved this smoothly, was this much fun. I interacted with so many great people. You know what I mean? Like, it's literally never happened before.
Yeah. And like, that's so wild, because like, I think for people who would be outside of the music industry, which the majority of the podcast listeners have no experience in music, I think for them, they'd be like, oh, being in the music industry must be so like wonderful and glamorous. It's like, oh, no. It's like brutal and tough and hard and all sorts of things. This sounds like this has been like just a different experience. It's just been smooth. You felt unified, and it's just been natural.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, partly because we're, going at our own pace. But, I think we've also been really lucky. Like, all these things happening in our favor are great. And, we're very gracious for that.
Yeah.
But also why I think we, want to keep going.
Yeah. I want to hit on that piece about luck in a second. But before I do that, and, you're comfortable talking about this or not, you can let me know. Have you tipped over the line where you don't have to have side hustles anymore? So is Sherms like your living, or do you still need to have side hustles or main jobs?
Um, right now,
Yeah, it's not keeping the
it's not keeping the all the lights on.
yeah.
It's keeping some of the lights on, but
Yeah.
it's growing though so quickly that hopefully at some point it can be more than what it is now. But it's definitely been a massive help financially. I'll say for myself, like I wasn't doing too much of anything. I've been waiting around for a tour that's been rescheduled 3 times, to happen, and there's not much going on musically for me right now, just because most of what I do is live. Um, so yeah, I mean, this has definitely been a huge help financially, and I see it going to more than that.
How about for you, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly other work that I'm involved in and, upcoming projects, but music, especially from a production or, working on record standpoint, it's fairly difficult to make a good amount of money depending on what you're doing, and even the timing of that money, it might be a year later when you get paid finally. So, this is a much more consistent thing in combination, I think, with the volatility of working as a freelance, producer or engineer or musician.
Mm. A piece of advice I got when I was younger. So when I was kind of deciding what I wanted to do, like, do I want to go forward with the career that I was in, or do I want to try and like make a go of kind of more creative pursuits? Piece of advice that I got was, hey, when what you do to express yourself creatively, when that becomes the way that you make your living, it changes the way you interact with that thing, where you're no longer really focusing on doing something that satisfies you. You got to also factor in, will it satisfy an audience who wants to pay for it? And that can really screw up your creative process. So what I've heard from both of you so much is that like Sherms has just been organic. Like it's just been seamless. You've just been doing it. And it's simple. It's a simple model. We got 2 bagels that we do. We do small batches. Everything's hand rolled. Is there any concern on your end that if it gets too big, if you fully make your living off of this, is there any worry that it could actually corrupt the vision and help cause you to make decisions that you wouldn't make otherwise?
It's a good question. I mean, I think that's a concern anywhere with anybody, especially in food and stuff. Like, we're really focused on the quality of what we're doing, and yeah, that's a concern. It would be a concern if things went too big, and we slipped on quality and we slipped on stuff like that. But at this point, it's not really a concern of mine. But
how about you, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I think, just with everything, at some point the integrity can be compromised for a lot of reasons, but at least right now, there's really no need to compromise, and like sort of Jesse and I have been saying, it's sort of our company to do as we decide. So until that needs to change for any type of reason, I think we're probably going to keep it pretty chill.
Yeah. Okay, so like Adam, you'd mentioned luck earlier, and I want to hit on this because like when I think of striking when the iron is hot, like part of it is like you do something cool, like you're doing something awesome. Second, you've got an audience that is willing, like they're interested in what you're doing. But the third is just luck, because you could have something that's cool, and you could have people who'd be interested in it, but it just might not be your time. It just might not be the right set of circumstances. This is clearly the right circumstance. So luck is definitely factored in here. With that, like, how are you keeping, like, for example, at some point, the world's going to open up again. Both of you will be able to go back to music, or at some point, like, kind of like that window of time where you've got that lucky moment, it's going to close. So what's your plan, let's say 2 or 3 months from now, where Sherms isn't as new a thing to people, or maybe when music starts coming back? What do you guys want to do, or do you not have a plan today?
Well, I think, that's a fairly optimistic outlook that, in a couple months, everything's back to normal. But at the same time, I think it's always been our sort of desire to, maintain our, music identities and, sort of coexist. So, part of that is looking at this business not only as something that, we ourselves are, very hands-on in, but, in growing the business and, potentially bringing a few people on, that allows us to, oversee certain things and, grow at the same time, but also keep a foot in our other, sort of worlds. And I think that's, also part of what has been really interesting with the opportunities that have come is, we have, a lot of interest in setting up different locations if that's something we choose to do in different cities, maybe even, all of it very tentative so far. But that's, I think, even part of the excitement of how we could grow this, but also, exist in both places. And, Jesse can
Absolutely.
go on tour for 6 months and,
no, I will not go on tour for 6 months.
Or,
Ever again.
Me neither, man.
Fuck, that's too long. I'm going to cry.
Yeah, but nonetheless, I think, we're trying to look at this as something that we can, grow and, maintain while doing other things at a bigger level than certainly what it is right now.
And I love that idea, like possibly like how could we replicate this in other cities while that would allow us to kind of like still scale up, but also like live our creative lives that we already had. Like it's stuff like that where it's like a business doesn't have to like chain you down to something. Yeah. If you do it the right way and you're creative about it, it can open up a lot more doors. And again, that goes back to kind of like punk thinking. Yeah. With that in mind, I am super interested in this next thing because as I've been watching you grow, I've been thinking about like, well, what do people who are actually in the food service world, who are in that culinary world, like how do they feel about it? And the way I juxtapose this is like, okay, we come from like underground culture and like music and all of that. And you think about like when a band comes up and they start getting hype and you're like, damn, who were these people like 3 or 4 years ago? Like, were they part of our scene? There's that weird, like, are you really legit? Like, yeah. Are you from our scene and our music, or are you someone who's just kind of like hopping on our trend? And so musicians and the music world and the creative world in general, I think can be like super judgmental and kind of gatekeepery, but is that the same everywhere else? So my question is like, as you've been growing, have you received support or pushback from people who are in the food world?
Yeah, it's a good question. We have been really, really lucky that we've gotten a lot of love from chefs and business owners and restaurant owners and all kinds in Toronto. And some of our favorite restaurants that we eat at have become, the chefs and stuff have become customers of ours. And
that's cool.
It's actually been a really positive thing. It's definitely not the same as, I think there's probably people, talking shit somewhere, but as a whole, it's definitely seems like people are a lot nicer than they would be in a band world or in a music industry world where everybody's got their back up about, who's that? We've been, I think pretty lucky and blessed by the love we've gotten back from these people. Cause we're new to the game, but we've, nobody's really given us any trouble about it.
I mean, it's funny because honestly, we have just been sort of doing our thing and from our circle of friends, it's going beyond that. And, I think we started to realize like, the food industry is actually taking notice of what we're doing. But ironically enough, we never set out to do that. So if these people are actually checking out our product and they think it's good, it's amazing. And that is more sort of encouragement for us to keep going. It's super inspiring because, again, we were just doing this for fun and we liked what we were doing. And then it started to get to our friends and they were really bigging it up. And then, without us really pushing at all, it starts to get out to these bigger circles. And so those are, really legit food people who are now not only supporting, but like really sort of, cheering us on. And I think it was really, extremely encouraging to know that is at least, what some of the industry was saying, because, similar to music, like the gatekeeper thing is terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is terrible. And, you see, and it's weird because like, around creativity and all that, there's such a sense of like, for example, if you're a musician and you let's say you're part of hardcore, it's not just a thing you do, it's part of who you are. It informs your identity and it's got all that weird stuff tied up in it. Like, who am I? Who are you? Who has some more social landscape? I think you're experiencing a world that's obviously a lot bigger than punk or hardcore underground music. And there's more business people in it, but they're still super creative. But the thing that, like your story, what it is really highlighting for me is a lot of these barriers that I think exist in the world, or that we think exist in the world, are illusions. All it takes is just ingenuity, drive, willingness, creativity, curiosity, and you can do really cool things. You can take your existing skill set you have and take it into other places as long as you're willing and you got the guts to do it. And for me, that's the Sherm story, is that like that guts, that curiosity, that like ingenuity of like, hey, let's just figure this out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really fun to, have something to really dig in and, just like go do a bunch of research. And, we were talking about this the other day. We're like, baking is literally like doing science experiments every day, and so that like, it's this fun, and every day is a bit different. And, like I wake up and I'm like, okay, I want to try this today and see what happens. And, it's just that random sort of curiosity and passion that sort of drives to a point where it's like, it's fun. Like, it's not a chore. It's not, like you wake up in the morning and don't want to get out of bed. It's like, oh shit, what can we do today?
Yeah. All right. So I've got 2 questions for each of you. Adam, I'm going to start with you, and then Jesse, I'll ask you the same question, and then I'm going to do the same for the second question. So Adam, what is something that you've learned about yourself from doing this, from taking this journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the things that I really, have to appreciate is just allowing, the signs of the universe to kind of guide you sometimes. And when something sort of is presented to you in a way that it didn't even almost seem real at first, that this would become a business, and this would be something that we'd be doing more than just a couple days for fun. So, just really kind of digging into something you're passionate about and not being afraid to embrace it. Obviously we're in a weird time, thinking about stepping away from music, not knowing where that is. Like, it is a bit of a concerning thing. I've been, working in the music industry and doing music for, almost 20 years. So to burn that all down and start baking bagels is a pretty fucking drastic thing to just do. Yeah. But nonetheless, it's like, because it's been fun, I'm doing it with my best friend, like, why not? And it's just grown to this great thing. So I guess all that rambling to say, just sort of trust your instincts, like everyone, always says.
Yeah, but people's,
that's huge.
It is huge. Yeah, thanks, Jesse, for saying that, because like that is a thing that says like, oh, trust your instincts, but like, no, you're like, I'm going to trust my instincts here. I'm going to start a bagel company when I have no background in this. That's like some real trusting your gut, and it's a huge thing. It's a massive takeaway. So Jesse, what have you learned about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, like Adam, I've learned definitely to trust my instincts a lot more. Beyond that too, sort of trust other people's reaction and instincts to things, and not be so inside my head about everything. And it's really just trying to accept that the love that you're giving out from something like food, and taking that back in, and not all be about you, kind of thing, is it's been, I think, a huge thing for me.
I love that, man. That's super powerful. All right, so now Jesse, I'm going to ask you the second question.
Yeah.
There's going to be people listening to this because they're business people, and they could be business people in huge businesses or small businesses. But we're also going to be taught, like, there's going to be people here that are No Warning fans or Headstones fans, or they're people that are fans because of what you guys are doing. Of that audience, there are going to be people who have an idea. They want to try something, but maybe they're afraid. Do you have any advice for anyone who's kind of on the cusp of trying something, but their fear is holding them back?
I would say, I mean, just judge from my own experience in this whole thing, just give it a chance, go for it. If it's good, if it's making you feel good, and if it's making other people feel good, what do you have to lose right now? The world is so different right now. There's nothing is guaranteed. I mean, nothing ever was guaranteed, but more than ever now, everything's so up in the air and unsure, that why not just take a chance?
Oh man, and I love what you just said about like, hey, nothing ever was guaranteed. Because again, there's this like
Yeah.
illusion of safety that people seem to have, where it's like, no, like anything could happen
No.
anytime, and that this pandemic shows that. All right, over to you, Adam. Like, there are going to be people listening to this that are like, damn, like I wish I could do that. So, what advice would you have for someone listening to this that's like almost on the cusp of taking a leap, but something's holding them back?
Yeah, I think it's, it's good to put yourself in uncomfortable situations because, whether you succeed or fail, you learn and then you can go about it a different and, hopefully better way the next time. But I feel like that's sort of the thing is, you just have to try. Whether, if you lose or you don't succeed, like there's something to be taken away from it either way. And, if you're doing something that you're really passionate about, hopefully there's something you're taking away from it positively either way. And it's going to be enjoyable for you. And it'll help you kind of keep moving forward or inform you that that's not what you need to do. But I guess that, what I'm trying to say is you should know by trying rather than always wondering if you should have.
Hey, that's no by trying. I think that's really like really solid. All right, as we're coming to a close, I just have two more questions. The first one is like I got a sense of where you might go with this, but it's one that I'm interested in and other people are interested in. So, what's next? What's next for Sherms Bagels?
Well, I mean, for right now, what's next is we're just on a weekly basis trying to ramp up our production, as far as how many dozen bagels we can offer a day to people, and trying to get our stuff out to more people right now. The future probably holds us having to bring on somebody to work with us so we can do that. But like we've been saying this whole time, apart from that and apart from our short-term goals, which we have, which are just numbers goals as far as, like I said, a dozen a day kind of thing. Apart from that, it's, who knows? We could go anywhere with this thing. And, but it could be storefront, it could be wholesale, it could be whatever. I mean, there's going to be, I think, a whole bunch of stuff.
All right, right on. Adam, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked to a couple different people about, maybe collaborating with a restaurant or, like different things we could maybe do to, do some different promotions with people to bring some light to some other, businesses that we think are cool. So, I think those are just some of the ideas. Nonetheless, we're trying to grow every week, whether that be just the amount of people we can serve or, partnering with someone to do a cool collab. So, we're constantly thinking of what is next.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, Jesse?
I should just mention one of the things that we did that we started actually this week. So we've been doing all the pickups at my apartment, which is it's been great to meet everybody, but it adds 3 hours. There's to my day every day. A person at my door every 10 minutes kind of thing. So this week we had a great idea to think of local businesses that have kind of been suffering that maybe we could use as a pickup hub. So we actually, my wife's cousin Tim owns a place called Tommy's Wine Bar, and it's actually 5 minutes away from my house. They sell beer and wine that you can't get at the LCBO. They sell, lots of local pickles, local things, coffee, stuff like that. So we pitched it to him saying, what do you think about us dropping the bagels off at 4 p.m. every day, and from 5 till 8, you'll have 20 people walking through your shop. So he thought that was a great idea. We tried it for the first time on Tuesday, and first night they sold $200 worth of wine, and it just worked kind of the way that we envisioned it. And so that's something that maybe we might explore a little bit more and trying to offer that to other businesses or, see if that's something that we can do.
Oh yeah, and that's like just straight up good karma too, right? It works for you because then you don't have people come to your house every 10 minutes, but it's a cool thing you can do for other people. I love that idea, really community centered. All right, last question for each of you. And you each have to answer, and every answer is acceptable. All right, I'm going to start with Jesse. Jesse, what is one unsung, not recognized enough, not loved enough Canadian classic record from any genre?
Oh, shit. From any genre. Okay, there is this one compilation, and I just want to make sure I get this right. I think it's called From Jamaica to Toronto, and it was from the late 70s, I believe, and it's all these really cool reggae and soul songs, some originals, some covers. That's one thing that has always blown me away. I'm just trying to find the name of this thing, but that would be one for me. Apart from, Friends, music from Friends, but that one is a huge thing. Yeah, I think it's called From Jamaica to Toronto. Let me see if I remember.
All right, you look it up. I'm going to go over to Adam, and then we'll come back to you if you're wrong on the name. All right, Adam, what do you got?
Wow, that's a fantastic question. No Warning, Suffer, Survive.
Good, man.
Come on, dog.
Well done, man. Well done. Awesome.
Okay.
All right, Jesse, did you get the name right?
I was right. It's called Jamaica to Toronto, Soul, Funk, and Reggae, 1967 to 1974. Some of the people on this recording were actually some artists that would play at a place called the Orbit Room. It was a bar that I used to play at quite a bit. But there's all kinds of cool music. I encourage anybody to look this up. It's an amazing record and kind of a cool thing because there's a cool connection with Toronto and Jamaica.
I love that, man. All right, so as we're wrapping up, anything that either one of you or you want to say together to our audience as we're closing off?
Thanks for listening, and I hope you can try our bagels sometime soon.
Adam, anything on your side?
Thanks for listening, everybody.
You peaked with the Suffer Survive comment. Like that was
I think that's it. You should have shut the goddamn thing off.
That was the mic drop moment.
That was the mic drop. All right, guys. Hey, listen, thank you so much. And for everyone listening, doing something like this, I know we kept hearing the term like organic and just like we just went for it. But it actually is like a huge thing to start your own business, to take your fortune into your own hands like that. And most of all, to figure it out every single day. Like what I loved about this story is like every day we're trying something new. We're making little moves. We're trying to grow. That's a massive thing. But just because it's massive doesn't mean it's unattainable. I'm going to touch more on this on our outro, but I do want to say to both of you as we're closing off, like this story for me is not just like a feel-good story. It's really, really inspirational. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for sharing today.
Thank you. We really
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Okay, awesome. Everyone, we will see you in the outro, and Dave, drop the beat. Thanks, Adam and Jesse, for coming on. That was an awesome conversation. You know, as a business owner, it's scary. Like, it can be totally freaky because when you're doing something, all you really have is your belief that what you're doing is worthwhile to put out in front of other people. What's so cool about their story is they're getting this instant feedback that people love what they're doing. But they're not just resting on their laurels. They're running with it. They're really striking when the iron is hot. And who knows, maybe they stay the same size or maybe they take this to a whole different level. But what I love is that they're doing it. So huge kudos to them. And I hope everyone listening got as much out of this conversation as I did. So as we're closing off, I want to remind everyone that we're produced by Patrick McKechnie, edited by Dave Larson, and all of our stuff is designed by Tammy Levy. So everyone, that's it for this episode. Thanks so much for showing up, and we'll see you next time on One Step Beyond.
One step. One